Well, tá fáilte roimh is Misha Trevor Sargent Choctadala, leader of the Green Party, and one would, like yourselves, a very deep interest in the natural history of this area. And we're standing here at the entrance of Country Crest, local business, high up, looking over the landscape of North Fingal, and right down and as into distance we see the Dublin Mountains and out behind Lambay Island. And this is an area which has seen many changes and has a long tradition of farming in particular, particularly field crops. And the type of farming here is quite unique in the context of the whole of Ireland. I mean, it goes right back in terms of history, 12,000 years ago, when the ice receded. This place was covered, like a lot of Europe, with ice. When the ice receded back, we had trees growing naturally, a forest for most of Ireland. But in this area, when farmers came in, they really went for this area big time, because this was the fertile area, and we can see that from the field patterns that go back to the old church grounds when Lusk was the centre of a monastic population here, and Balrotherry as well, and Swords as well. But this was a real capital area here, and you had the Anglo-Normans came along. They made it very important in their settlement here, and as a result, the kind of plants that grow naturally in this area are very different from in other areas. For example, you don't have the woodland plants here because woodland has been gone from here for so long. Instead, you have plants that are associated with sandy, arable land, farmland for crops. And some of the types of plants that Dr. Declan Doug, who's a local person, has done a study of this area, interested in botany in particular, he picks out names which are quite unusual in Ireland. The prickly poppy, flicksweed, small-flowered cranesbill. And standing beside a field of cabbage here, it's interesting that he says that this area, and indeed Rogerstown, also have a number of unusual weeds, as we might call them. A cut-leafed dead nettle is often commoner, he says, than the widespread red dead nettle and the much larger northern dead nettle. Our nationally rare species reappears year after year in a few cabbage fields. So we may think there's a lot of weeds, but in fact some of them are quite unique and are quite special to people in Ireland because they don't grow elsewhere. But this is also a very important area for the whole of the country, because as the Irish Times has it in a survey, Dublin leads the field in field crops and in vegetable farming. 40% of the value of the vegetables grown in this country are grown here in North County Dublin. So we've a lot to be proud of in terms of the history of this area, in terms of how unique it is from the point of view of plant life and wildlife, and indeed in the economic value that this area has for the rest of the country. It supplies Ireland with most of its vegetables.
The National Tidy Towns competition emerged in 1958. One of its main aims was to present Ireland as a tidy place for tourists to visit. The competition is now run by the Department of the Environment, Heritage and Local Government. Our village has taken part in this competition for many years. This year we were awarded our highest ever markings.
Joe's Bridge.
What task had we used to sit on this bridge called Joe's?
This willow tree has a deep significance for North County Dublin, because willow is the traditional tree for cricket bats. This basket here, made by my fair wife's hands, made by Heidi, who does some willow craft, is one way of using willow that's still used around the country. This is a vegetable basket, and these are our own vegetables, which hopefully we'll get to see later on as well in the video when we're talking about composting and being able to grow your own food as well. Planting of a willow tree like this is quite easy because it's already coming from a pot, and all we probably should do is to try and make sure that the roots are not too I suppose tightly packed so that it gets a chance to kind of get established. And the hard work has been done, seeing as the hole is here now, so we'll be able to do the easy bit without too much hassle. And thanks very much, Tom. I suppose we just get the first few shovels in around so that the roots are in contact and there aren't any air pockets. Right. Now the important thing is to also firm it down, because although it's nice and calm here this morning, when the winds get going and it starts rocking around, the roots will take fright. To grow. They're used to grow. Right.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Thank you.
The need to protect and grow more trees is beyond question. Trees replenish the air with fresh oxygen and the soil with nutrients as their fallen leaves decompose on the forest floor. Trees provide a home for so much wildlife, as well as giving us a variety of useful and beautiful timbers. Look around, think what trees have made possible. The air we breathe, the birds which visit our gardens, the furniture in our kitchens, keeping soil from being washed into rivers when heavy rain falls, protecting farm animals from strong sun in summer. All of us in Lusk are very proud of local artist Wendy Walsh, whose beautiful illustrations of trees and plants have appeared on stamps indeed, and are taken here from her famous book, Trees of Ireland. Trees have been stately guardians, protecting the land for 10,000 years in Ireland, since the last ice age ended. And juniper and scrub willow began to colonize the ice-scarred bare landscape. Before long, birch arrived, and a few hundred years later, hazel, and on higher ground, Scots pine, which later became extinct in Ireland around the time of Christ's birth. 8,000 years ago, oak became dominant in acid soil areas, and wych elm in mainly lime areas. A wet phase of weather brought more willow and alder. The timber of alder was used to make paths over bogs in Stone Age times, as it endured wet conditions well. Last of the big native trees to arrive was the ash, along with elm and yew, the longest living of all our native trees. If left alone, a yew can keep growing for over 1,000 years. One yew in Scotland, still alive, was a sapling when the Romans built Hadrian's Wall. Trees need us to protect and nurture them, just as we need trees to create a healthy environment on which all life depends. Growing vegetables without artificial chemicals is easy if you make compost from kitchen and garden waste at home. Even my own small garden gives me very tasty carrots and leeks, for example. That's just a couple of things that have been left from the autumn. Using your own compost also saves having to use garden peat, and so protects what is left of bog habitats in Ireland. Every 6 months, I empty my compost bin. Just take a look at that. I fill it up again with a mixture of garden leaves and twigs, along with kitchen waste collected in our compost tumbler during the previous 6 months. Composters can be ordered from Fingal County Council if you ring 890-5000 and ask for the Environmental Awareness Officer. It is amazing to see worms and many microbes turn messy vegetable scraps into black, crumbly compost. The best satisfaction comes from using this precious compost to help grow more food for the kitchen. Here last autumn, I planted broad beans. When they grow and ripen, the beans can be eaten and the stalks cut down for compost making again. And so the cycle of life goes on. Many birds die of hunger during colder weather, in autumn and winter and indeed early spring. This is a good time to keep a bird table well stocked with peanuts and birdseed. And if you don't have a pond, don't forget to leave a bucket of water for the birds to drink from. Full of nutrition, so birds come at them. You can hang a bird feeder from a tree also, as long as it is out of reach of cats. Here we are in the kitchen with washed out food cans. We crushed them to take up less space in storage while waiting to be brought to Belleley Civic Amenity Recycling Centre. Well, here we are in the Belleley Civic Amenity, another part of Lusk, which provides a very important facility for people in the whole Fingal area. And Ken Gilday here knows a lot about it. Maybe you could tell us, Ken, about what happens here.
Well, the thing is, we have a civic amenity, but there's two sides to the civic amenity. There's a paying side and a non-paying side. The non-paying side is for those who come in with our plastic bags and plastic bottles. They also have do small paper, cardboard, egg boxes, magazines. Then we have another bin then for newspapers only. We also have tins, and we have aluminium cans, and we have waste oil, and we have all the bottles. That's all free. Everything is free. We do recycle wood, and we do recycle metal. We also recycle all white goods free at the moment.
Give us an example of white goods that
Well,
might come
white
in.
goods is washing machines, microwaves, computers, and they're all taken away and they're all recycled.
Well, here we are in Rogerstown Estuary, and many of you know this area, of course, because of Belleley Dump and also going on the train, and you'll see the train line behind. When we pass over the estuary, we're between Donabate and Russian Lusk Station. But this is also a very famous area internationally, and people come to this area from all over Ireland because this estuary, Rogerstown Estuary, is famous throughout Europe. It's a Ramsar site, it's protected under European law, and the birds that come here, mainly in the winter time, come from the areas north, like Greenland and Scandinavia, and it's during this time, winter time, that you see most birds here, because they're here for the milder winter compared to what they're used to in the northern areas, and they are able to feed here on the mudflats. And you'll get many types of ducks and waders and indeed geese, and the odd time you'll also get birds of prey that they know that there's a lot of food around for them as well. So you'll expect to see the mallard and the teal and widgeon, and sometimes even American widgeon, because other birds that are rare, they get blown off course and they come here because other birds are here and they know they can feed. So hopefully you'll be able to come here on a school trip and use the bird hide, which Birdwatch Ireland and Fingal County Council have provided, which means that you can be inside looking out through the slits on the bird hide, and the birds won't know you're there. So they really come up quite close, and if you have binoculars or telescope and you can borrow those, then you can see the birds and be able to identify them with the help of bird books. So I hope you enjoy your day in Rogerstown Estuary when you do get a chance to visit. Well, here we are in the Irish Seal Sanctuary, in the home of Brendan and Mary Price. And great to be here again, Brendan. And tell us, Brendan, Lusk is an area which has fond memories for you and the Irish Seal Sanctuary. I think you've had an involvement there with releasing seals in Rogerstown Estuary as well. Would you like to tell us a bit about that?
That's right, yeah. Well, Fingal as a whole is the spiritual home, I suppose, of the Seal Sanctuary. Lusk has always been very good to us. It's very close by. Children there have rescued seals. They've monitored their coastline. They've called us. We've brought in seals. We've brought them back to seals as tradition dictates, and we've had some wonderful releases down at Rogerstown. And with it also goes the message, and the kids' message and hopes for the quality of that water and that particular bit of coastline. So we really enjoyed it. They were also the biggest participants in our national art competition, so they contributed substantially in a financial sense to keeping the seal rescue work going. And I suppose too, we look on them in the long term too as being the nursery ground for Irish marine biologists of the future, and we hope to have this facility in place whereby they can take their skills to the highest level.
And tell us, Brendan, I know folklore has a lot of associations with seals, and particularly in Fingal, you were mentioning Lamb Bay Island was special. Tell us a bit about that.
That's right, yeah. We're very proud of the legend because the Irish legends would match the Scottish legends. And the site or location of the court of the King Seal is hotly disputed. You know, the Scots say they have it, the Isle of Man says they have it, Cornwall says they have it. You know, we say it's around Lamb Bay. And the story is quite simple. You know, it is a story of conservation. It's about the affairs of the North Atlantic being ruled from the court of a King Seal. And we suspect and believe, and have good reason to believe, that the court of the King Seal and all the affairs of the North Atlantic are conducted from somewhere deep in the waters around Lamb Bay Island.
So Lusk is very close to the court of the King's Seal, then people will know that in the future.
That's right, yes, and so all that goes with the governments and the conservation of the North Atlantic.
Well, here we are in Hedgestown National School in the parish of Lusk with school principal Mr. Eddie Kirk and students. All of us love science experiments, and here's one which shows how pondweed makes oxygen, on which all water life depends. And if we turn the bottle upside down so that the bubble of air can be seen, we will be able to, in a bit of time, see how that weed creates more oxygen and makes that bubble grow.
That's the biggest tree, or was the biggest tree in Fingal. It was a Nellan tree. Would you like to accept this?
I would love to accept that.
And when I get home, I'd be sorry for giving it to him.
Oh, thank you very much.
But thank you. You're welcome.
Well, it's great to see the students taking such a keen interest in picking up litter and keeping the place litter-free. And we certainly appreciate the help from Fingal County Council, which provided the bags and the caps and all the necessary paraphernalia to make it even more interesting. And picking up litter instills great pride in an area, particularly when you see the fruits of your labour and the place looking so tidy. So let's keep the place litter-free. Marvellous cycleway there now. It's great to see a cycleway in Lusk, and it's great to be testing it out. It's going to be very important really to have cycleways because the parking situation in Lusk village and all the various towns and villages in North County Dublin is going to become impossible with the level of new houses and the amount of cars that obviously want to park, but there isn't space for them. So the bike is a great option, and it's also a good way of staying fit as well as having a clean form of transport. Here we are back where we started, at Joe's Bridge, named after the late Joe Sweetman, who loved this spot. It had become overgrown, but tadpoles and pinkeens can still be found in the river. Its restoration was a millennium project by Lusk Tidy Towns Committee, with the help of Fingal County Council and the Department of the Environment and Local Government. Lusk Tidy Towns Committee would like to thank also John Doyle, who provided the topsoil, Martin Corr, who landscaped and provided shrubs, to Brendan Scally, who wrote a verse now seen on the stone, and to John Flynn, who keeps the grass cut. We also want to thank Billy Sweetman for his cooperation with providing the land. And we finish now with Pat Kelly, a great friend of Lusk and Secretary and PRO of Lusk Tidy Towns Committee, who will read us a poem about Joe's Bridge written by local artist and craftsman Leo Dunn.
Joe's Bridge neglected, long forgotten, overgrown and out of view. This little bridge of solid stone, now remembered by a few, and restored to former glory, worthy witness to the past, when pace of time and life and stream was gentle and serene, or so it seems. For Joe's Bridge, as it was known, has played a vital role, a place to cross or rest a while, a welcome watering hole, a place where children came by day to play, to fish or swim, a place where romance flourished and love's promise did begin. And for Joe it was a special place, or so it would appear. Perhaps he came for solitude, perhaps he came to share his inner feelings of a former love affair. And as we focus our attention on a third millennium, dashing forward ever faster towards a time which may not come, slow down a little as you cross Joe's Bridge on into Lusk, or even stop and listen for Joe's presence in the hush, or to what this place just might reveal, its magic or its past. The mystery of the moment should be treasured while it lasts.